What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and listen, every single month we do this list where we look at the top 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player for the previous month. And I'm going to tell you right now, this list takes on many different shapes and forms, throughout the year. Sometimes a new set drops and we'll see those cards kind of dominate this list, or sometimes, cards with high degrees of playability will dominate this list. But spoiler alert, like this list this month is a just absolute whale of a list. All of these cards, they have huge collectability, huge investability. I mean, these are some of the biggest cards out there right now. So I'm always excited to share this with you, but I'm especially excited to share it with you this month because this is really, really cool. Now remember, this is a rear view mirror looking list, right? So these are the cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player in December. So a lot of people were probably gifting these or, buying them with, money that was left over from Christmas or for whatever reason. So it was interesting to see that the month of December really drove an increase in interest in these high demand, like high volume, like high dollar cards here in the Pokemon space. And I can't wait to show you guys some of these price charts. I will also say this, there's one card on here that I am always excited to talk about, but the current price chart for this one has me excited, not just about the card, but about the market as a whole. So I'm really excited to get to that one. Now, we don't just talk about the individual cards on here, right? To the left, I show you, hey, I will show you the price graph for the card that we're talking about, but I'm also going to show you the price graph either from the booster box or elite trainer box that it comes from, because I think it's always important to say, hey, what is the sealed product that this card is able to be acquired from? How's that doing in comparison to what a lot of these cards are the big chase cards in the set? And then I always have this star system, which I started a while ago and I think is really cool. So the stars simply indicate how many months in a row a card has been on this list, right? So if you're on there 3 months in a row and then you fall off and then you're on there month number 5, guess what? You start over from 0. The stars only represent the number of consecutive months in a row. And as always, listen, if you enjoy this type of content, we do fun stuff like this all the time. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. If you do those 3 small things, I appreciate it a lot and it really helps my small channel out. So we always start off this list with not only talking about what is on the list, but I think it's really important to talk about what drops off the list. Now, as I said earlier, sometimes there's different cards that are on this list for various different reasons, right? Last month, we had a lot of Paradox Rift on this set, or on this list, right? And we see a lot of these cards were in the $6 to $10 range, and they are gone. Obviously, the big special illustration rare Iron Valiant is on there right now because that card was getting all the hype. And we also see Forest Sealstone, right? And that card has been on this list really almost all of last year, almost all of 2023. But now that it's available in a league battle deck, right? Like now that you can buy this, pretty easily at the store for much less of a premium versus what you'd have to buy it on TCG Player, it fell off the list. I think people are going to go, that route instead of buying the cards individually as they have had to do in the past. So these cards are off. Not saying these aren't stud cards, not saying these aren't awesome, but I'm going to tell you the cards that we're about to talk about are absolutely lights out. So very first one right on here is this Alakazam from 151. Now, it was on the list last month. It's on the list again this month, hence the 2 stars right there. I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to kind of have the longevity. I didn't know if it was just kind of like it's going to pop on the list and drop off. But 2 months in a row, here it is at number 10. And again, look at the price. A lot of these come out and they do the Pokemon pop and flop, right? It comes up and then it drops down, not just for a couple months, but really for a long, long period of time. That Lugia from Silver Tempest, we've been charting that and it's literally been dropping ever since the set came out, right? But this card right here, it has actually been flat really for the last, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 weeks there, which is kind of interesting considering that I had this theory that over Christmas, there was going to be a whole lot of 151 that was going to be ripped, and a lot of that was going to flood into the market post-Christmas, and we're pulling this data 3 weeks post-Christmas, so still a little early to see the overall impacts that might have, but I mean, that graph is really, really flat over the last, 4 weeks, so it is going to be interesting to see if these 151 cards can continue to hold their water, but at least early on, super excited to see Alakazam here. I know a lot of people were pumped about the return of Kadabra, so not surprised to see this on here, but we shall see if it can make it 3 months in a row. Now, the very next one right here, again, not all of them are going to be off the list, the playability cards, but if any of the playability cards are going to be on here, I love this Iono, right? Now, it was off last month after being on for a pretty good spell there. I don't know. I think it was on for 3 consecutive months. And here it is. It's back, right? Everybody knows that Iono is an absolute favorite, and then you combine the playability with this, and The card's just fire, right? Now, my kids got 2 Paldea Evolved booster boxes for Christmas, so we obviously ripped them. They had a ton of fun. You're going to hear a little story about that on the very next slide. But we got 4 of these, so what am I going to do? I'm going to sell them on eBay as a group of 4 and recoup a little bit of that money and maybe buy some more booster boxes. And, you know, it won't cover the whole cost of a booster box, right? But it'll help offset some of it. And it is interesting to see that the Paldea Evolved booster boxes, if you look at the price graph on the left, it is really starting to flatten out. It actually has a little bit of an uptick over the last couple months. It's up at $99, so it's almost near that $100 mark. I'm not saying that this is any indication that, you know, the booster box price is going to start to swing upwards, but we do know that from a value perspective, there is more value in the Paldea Evolved set than, say, like a Scarlet and Violet base or, say, an Obsidian Flames, even though the Obsidian Flames has the Charizards. Like, when we chart it out, when we do our data dives, we know that there's a ton of value in Paldea Evolved. Now, what was I about to say? More Paldea Evolved right here, and I am absolutely pumped to see this card on the list. I was really disappointed. It's been off the list for 3 or 4 months, so to see this one, I think this is like from first year Scarlet and Violet, this is probably my favorite card, you know, just a regular card that was available, not a Black Star promo or anything special like that. Obviously, Pikachu with Great Felt Hat, you know, is going to have a special place in in 2023, but when you think about just the cards that are coming from the sets, you know, even considering the Charizard from 151, which, surprise, surprise, we're going to see later on in this list, like, for me, this is one of the iconic cards from last year. Now, I told you that my kids got 2 Paldea Evolved booster boxes for Christmas, and when my wife asked me why I picked them, I said, well, there's this Iono and this Magikarp, like, we won't pull them, but I'd really, really like them. I think they're awesome cards. I think the kids will get pumped, and my 4-year-old actually pulled this Iono, so we're really excited about that. Now, my 4-year-old has all the luck in the world, right? She's the one where we bought a couple booster packs of Evolving Skies from our local grocery store, and she pulled the Rayquaza alt art. So some kids got all the luck. She's one of them, but this is a stunning card, and again, this is one that I'm excited to see back on this list. When you look at the price graph has been coming down, but it's got that bowl, right? It really, really dropped hard between October and November, and it's starting to recover a little bit. So, hey, again, we're used to seeing these cards drop for just years on end. I don't know where it's going to end up, but it is encouraging to see some of these chase cards, you know, from the Scarlet and Violet Year 1 era, starting to have some wherewithal and starting to have a little fight in them. So I think this card is going to go down as one of the best from Scarlet and Violet Year 1, and we're super lucky and fortunate to have a kid pull it in the family here. So speaking of 151, here we go. This Charmander right here, back-to-back months at number 7, and I absolutely love seeing this card retain its value. Like, I love seeing the Charmander and the Charmeleon on a bunch of the lists that we talk about from 151. Like, obviously, the Zard gets all the love, but it's really cool to see these, and I think the artwork on here is just absolute fire, right? 3 months in a row here on the list, and it just shows you that the demand and the volume is still there for this, and the price has been flat really since October. So I love seeing these cards. Obviously, it's not a big chase card from the set, but it is top 10 in terms of value. So I see a card like Charmander from the 151. It just lets me feel confident in the long-term viability of 151. I know a lot of us have been talking about, are they going to print it into the ground? Like, is it going to be able to hold, you know, the value that it's had? And that is still yet to be determined. Like, if anybody can outprint demand, it's the Pokemon company, right? But at least for now, demand seems to be holding up with supply, and I'm just pumped to see this card on the list 3 months in a row. The other card I'm pumped, now again, this is the third 151 card we've seen out of the first 5 that we've looked at, and this is the Zapdos card right here, coming in at number 6. This one did drop dramatically after launch, but it has been holding steady. Again, another one that's just been holding its weight since October of 2023. You know, again, 2 months in a row that this card has been on here. Again, November, December, strong demand for 151. Was that driven by people buying Christmas gifts? I don't know, but I cannot wait to see this list next month to see how many of these are able to withstand, you know, the time, and see if they're still in as much demand as they were in the holiday season, and most importantly, to see if these prices are able to maintain through January. Very, very interesting stuff. Now, the next card on the list right here, this is the one that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Now, I get excited anytime I see this Charizard from the base set on the list. Like, anytime the holy grail of the whole freaking Pokemon collecting hobby is on this list, and TCG Player saying, hey, listen, people are buying and selling this like mad, that gets me really excited. But what gets me most excited is this just touched a 1-year high. Now, again, that could be driven because in December, a lot of people were buying some really great Christmas presents out there. Like, I need to get PikaPikaMama on this train and start buying me some base set Charizards for Christmas. I certainly didn't get that, although I had a wonderful holiday. But this is really cool here to see this on here. So not only am I excited to see it on there, but look, after all of these months, like, that's a 1-year price chart. It really kind of bounced up and bounced down. Then you see in November, it took a hard spike up. I love seeing this. Again, I think that this is just a barometer for the overall health of the hobby. Doesn't mean it has to be worth $1,000, but when I see the price graph as strong as this is, when I see it moving up, it just gives me a lot of faith that everybody is still into this. People are still going to, like, your casual collectors don't really go after this, right? right? Your casual collectors who are just buying and ripping product and just having fun with the hobby, not a lot of them are looking way back into the 1999 base set and going after this Charizard. So this lets me know that there's a lot of collector interest and a lot of investor interest, and just pumped to see this on here. I think it's always a good sign. Now, the next one right here, absolutely one of my favorite cards from the entire Sword and Shield era is this Giratina V. We've been talking a lot about Lost Origin and the sealed product. You know, the product was out. You can see there in the sealed booster box price on the bottom left, it was on absolute fire. Then it got restocked or reprinted or whatever you want to call it, and it absolutely cratered. Now, we saw in November, the booster boxes started to gain a little price, but this Giratina V, the price has been coming down really since around April of 2023, and it's been a pretty aggressive decline. However, again, if you look at the last couple weeks, it has started to pop back up and started to flatten out, right? We're going to talk about this term a lot on this channel. We talk about support and resistance levels, right? Like when it reaches $220, there seems to be a whole lot of support at that price point, and people just buy it. And when people buy it at that price point, it makes the price point go up. So you see that it kind of flattened out there between November and December of last year. It's popped up, but now it looks like it's flattening out again. I don't know, it's going to be interesting. There's a ton more Lost Origin out there to be opened. There's a ton of Lost Origin sealed product. So these Sword and Shield alt arts, the big hitters like this, it's going to be interesting to see how they hold their value over time. I don't know when I'm going to pull the trigger on this, but you guys have been hearing me obsess over this card for about a year. So I have a feeling that there will be a time where I pull it. Spoiler alert, my kid's birthday is coming up. Like Christmas and birthday are really close for her, and I got her a Lost Origin booster box to open just in the off chance that we pull this. It's my 7-year-old, not my 4-year-old, so she's not as lucky, but we shall see. It'll be a ton of fun. Now, very next one right here is the Charizard from Obsidian Flames, and I know everybody calls it Obsidian Flames. Not a lot of people are big fans of this set, but I will say there's enough people out there who are fans of this card to have it on the list for 4 months in a row. And not only has it been on the list for 4 months in a row, it's been in the top 3 actually for 4 months in a row, which is absolutely crazy. That tells you that the demand for this card is absolutely through the roof. And I will say this, like when you look at that 6-month price chart for the card itself, it hasn't exactly cratered. Like yes, out the gate it dropped significantly, but it was just way overvalued out of the gate, right? It's at $60 right now. I went back and I looked at how it has fared over the last 3 months. I referenced these exact videos, and really the price has been flat for this. I mean, it was at $59 last month. The month before that, it was at $61. So from 61 to 59 to 60 where we sit today, I mean, it doesn't get any flatter than that. So it's going to be interesting to follow the price chart on this one. And if it remains flat, that is a good thing, right? And I think as long as it keeps popping on this list, it's going to remain flat because this is a great indication of overall consumer demand for the card, because these are the top 10 cards that exchange hands the most on TCG Player. Now, the other thing to call out is look at the booster box price for Obsidian Flames there in the bottom left, right? You see that it is also flattened out a lot. Now, not over a long period of time, but really if you trend line it out since October of 2023, it's got some ups and some downs, but really it's pretty close to flat. So we talked for a long time about, hey, these Scarlet Violet booster boxes, when you can pick them up, I mean, dare I say some in the 80s, high 80s, like low 90s, anything like that, I just think it is hard to beat that. When you think about protecting the downside and a really solid long-term investment, I think it's just hard to go wrong with that, right? It doesn't mean they're going to spike overnight. It doesn't mean in the next 3 years you're going to get a 200% ROI. But I do think those are very, very safe plays for the long run, because $90 for a sealed booster box is just absolutely crazy. Now, getting into the top 2 right here. Here it is the Moon Kitty. We all love the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies. And as we said before, we talked about the support and resistance lines. When this dropped into high $400 range, people bought it like mad. Like they just went absolutely insane. It dropped into like the $480, and you can see it snap back up. And now it has remained flat for about 6 weeks here, in the $525, $535 range. And I think that's good. The other thing that I always keep an eye on for this individual card is I keep an eye on the PSA 10 population. So every single time it pops on this list, I share with you guys, how the PSA 10 population has increased. And so from November, where we had 9,421 PSA 10s of this, to now there's 4,861 of them. So we saw an increase of 400. Last month when we did this, we saw an increase of 380. So I don't know if it's going to start leveling off around that $400 range. Like again, there's tons of Evolving Skies out there to be open. I don't know, because the booster box is so high, I don't know if a lot of people are going to be ripping booster boxes going after this Moonbreon, because it is such a known hard pull. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would much rather leave it sealed. So that is why I keep an eye on this population, because I think it's just fascinating to me. And again, this is the Grail card from the Evolving Skies era, or from the Sword and Shield era. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a Grail card from Scarlet and Violet. So the more data we have, the more information we can arm ourselves with over the Grail card for Sword and Shield. I think that's going to help us down the road when we start seeing, what the Grail card shapes up being in Scarlet and Violet. And again, look at that Evolving Skies booster box price in the lower left. We've talked about it a lot. It's been flat for 5 months, but guess what? Has a real sharp upturn there. We've been saying, hey, listen, the market might be, looking the other way, missing on Evolving Skies booster boxes. So for me, it's exciting to see it pop back up. We'll see what it does over the next 30 days, but it's going to be interesting to come back and look at this card again. Number 1, here it is, Charizard from 151. 151, greatest set from the first Scarlet and Violet year 1. Can't argue with it. People absolutely love it. This card did the absolute opposite. When you look at its graph right there, the price chart, it popped up and then it continued to go up, right? Total opposite of the Pokemon pop and flop, but it has remained flat again over the last couple months there at the $118 mark. And I love the art. I love the set. I just love everything about this card. So I think this card has the opportunity to do really, really well in the long run. And again, it's just exciting to me when we see a set like 151 come out. I hear in the comments all the time that 151 brought me back into the hobby, or hey, I wasn't really heavily invested or collecting. I was kind of just dabbling. But then, when 151 came out, it got me back in full swing. And these are the things that we need. And, it won't happen every single year, but in regular intervals over the course of our collecting and investing time frame, people are going to come out of the hobby, but we need these catalytic events in order to get people into the hobby. And I'm super impressed with 151. I'm super impressed with the way all the prices have performed. I'm super impressed with, where we're at right now in terms of still collectability and investability. So what will the future hold? I don't know, but this was a ton of fun to keep an eye on. Now listen, as I always say, if you made it to the end of this video, we do stuff like this all the time. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that. If you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. As always, I truly appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody. Bye.